We all know the posture. You know, the high-pitched whining, the sort of high-anxiety, low self-esteem thing.
Oh,
That guy who cooked up those elaborate lies.
yeah, George Costanza.
Exactly. George Costanza. He basically defined a whole generation of sitcom neuroses.
He really did. That character is just so globally famous, isn't he? Instantly recognizable. You see the slumping shoulders, the kind of aggressive ineptitude.
A sheer commitment to failure.
Right. It's like, for most people, Jason Alexander is George Costanza. He's just locked into our cultural DNA that way.
But here's the thing, and this is why we're doing this deep dive. If that's all you know, you're missing out on one of the most, well, remarkable professional transformations in modern entertainment.
Totally.
What if we told you the man behind that infamous Slysmith is actually a Tony Award-winning musical theater star
And an acclaimed director.
and a professional award-winning magician? Specializes in mentalism, no less.
Which is amazing, and also a really fervent, dedicated political advocate, a charitable advocate too, raising like hundreds of thousands for different causes.
Things like disaster relief, scleroderma research.
Yeah.
It's incredible. The gap between the fictional George and the actual Jason Alexander is just, it's vast.
It really is. It's maybe the ultimate case of an actor's talent, you know, completely overshadowing who they actually are in real life.
So today, we're diving deep. We've got this extraordinary stack of sources detailing the full life, the full work of Jason Alexander.
And our mission, really, is to kind of excavate the truth beneath that huge Seinfeld surface. Explore the surprising depth, the breadth of his career.
And we have to start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
With his origin story, because the sources immediately tell us something fundamental. Jason Alexander isn't actually his birth name.
Right. He was born J. Scott Greenspan.
J. Scott Greenspan.
And that stage name, Alexander, it's actually a really lovely, kind of subtle tribute. The sources explain he took Alexander from his father's first name, Alexander B. Greenspan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So even as he was kind of adopting this, you know, theatrical illusion of a stage name, he was showing this deep connection to his family. It's like J. Scott, son of Alexander.
That's really nice. Okay, so let's unpack this incredible journey. And we have to start with the career that, well, almost made him disappear, literally.
Yeah.
Magic.
Right. So J. Scott Greenspan, born in Newark, New Jersey in 1959, grew up in Maplewood and Livingston, and crucially, his first big professional dream had absolutely nothing to do with standing on a stage delivering lines, or even comedy.
No, the sources are clear. He was absolutely obsessed with becoming a professional magician, like from childhood.
Yeah.
Just devouring books on illusion, going to magic camps.
It wasn't just a phase, it was like his North Star.
But then comes this amazing turning point, a moment where his whole professional life just pivots.
Yeah.
And it's based on this single, really brutally honest piece of feedback about, well, his physique.
Yeah, he's at magic camp, right. And an instructor tells young J. Scott Greenspan that his hands, they're just too small for high-level card magic.
Wow.
Specifically, you know, those close-up dexterity illusions, the ones that need palming, manipulation.
You need bigger hands for that, I guess.
Apparently. And I find that moment just fascinating, too, because it forces him to pivot, right? From a career based on, like, fine motor skills and hiding things physically.
To a career based on emotional concealment.
Yeah.
Pure characterization.
Exactly. If he couldn't manipulate the physical world, he'd manipulate the emotional one.
So that physical limitation slams the door on maybe traditional stage magic.
Yeah.
But the sources say Alexander realized something profound. That theater itself. It was basically the same craft.
Yeah, he reflected on it later. He saw that, quote, the whole thing's an illusion. Nothing up there is real. He figured acting was the grandest magic trick of them all. Creating a character from nothing, making an audience believe in something that doesn't actually exist.
So, okay, this commitment to illusion, it leads him to Boston University. He enrolls to study classical acting, serious stuff. We're talking Shakespeare, dramatic roles.
Right.
The whole 9 yards.
Big aspirations. But then, he gets another piece of feedback. Just as blunt, maybe more so than the small hands critique.
Oh no, what now?
Another physical reality check.
Yeah.
A professor at BU looks at Alexander's, physical type, maybe sees his comedic timing, that natural expressiveness.
Not exactly the stoic leading man type.
Apparently not for this professor. So he redirects Alexander's focus, and he delivers this line that must have just stuck with him forever. I know your heart and soul are Hamlet, but you will never play Hamlet.
Oof, that's rough. So basically, kid, your insides want tragedy, but your outsides scream comedy.
Pretty much. And, what does that tell us about the industry back then, maybe still now? That pressure on young actors.
Yeah, it definitely says the industry was, and probably still is, kind of obsessed with specific physical types for dramatic leads, right?
Absolutely. Alexander had this incredible voice, great range, expression, perfect for serious roles, technically, but he didn't fit that classic leading man look. So that tough love, it essentially forced him to recognize, okay, my path to success lies somewhere else.
Maximizing his natural gift for physical comedy, timing, verbal dexterity.
The exact things that make George Costanza unforgettable. And as we'll see, the same qualities that got him rave reviews in musical theater.
And he jumped into it pretty quickly. He actually left BU after his third year.
Yeah, he landed a full-time acting gig in New York City, sacrificed finishing the degree right then for real-world experience.
But BU gave him an honorary degree later.
Oh, right.
In '95.
They did. A nice gesture, recognizing his success later on.
So before Broadway, before Seinfeld, he was doing the classic New York actor grind.
Oh, yeah. Paying the bills. His first film debut, the sources mention, was way back in 1981, a slasher film called The Burning.
The Burning. Okay, not exactly prestigious maybe, but it's a start.
It's a work. And the sources really show his early versatility, especially in commercials during the 80s. He was like a chameleon on Madison Avenue.
Doing ads for really high-profile different kinds of products.
Totally diverse. We're talking Miller Lite beer.
Okay.
The legendary McDonald's McDLT hamburger, you remember that, needed that specific, quirky, high-energy delivery.
Oh, I do. The hot side stays hot. The cool side stays cool.
Exactly. And then, completely different vibe, Levi's 501 jeans. Needed a cooler persona for that.
Being able to sell all those different things. It really speaks volumes about his ability, right, to just jump into these little micro characters.
That's the definition of a great character actor.
So he was already a pro, paying the rent, being versatile, way before the whole Seinfeld tidal wave hit in the 90s.
And that grime, that versatility is exactly what prepared him for, well, the biggest stage in America, Broadway.
Okay, this section is so important for, like, redefining Alexander in people's minds. Because George Costanza, the Seinfeld pilot, that aired in 1989.
Right.
But what the sources absolutely prove is that Jason Alexander was already a celebrated, award-winning titan on Broadway before he ever signed on to play George.
Way before. He made his Broadway debut really early in 1981. Landed a role in Stephen Sondheim's musical, Merrily We Roll Along.
A Sondheim debut. Wow. Even if that show had its initial struggles, that's instant legitimacy in the theater world, isn't it?
Puts you right in the top tier. And he kept building that respected stage career all through the 80s. Roles in The Rink in 84, Neil Simon's Broadway, Bound in 86.
He was a known quantity. Respected in that tough New York theater scene.
Definitely. But the absolute peak of this pre-Seinfeld success, the moment that really cemented his legacy outside TV, came in 1989, his role in the musical anthology Jerome Robbins Broadway.
And this is the performance that won him the Tony Award. 1989 Tony for Best Actor in a Musical.
Exactly. And listen, he didn't win a Tony after becoming famous as George, like some kind of vanity project. He won it simultaneously with the start of Seinfeld, based on years of hard stage work.
That is such a critical distinction.
It really is. And the sources give us this perfect little critical detail that just showcases the scale of what he achieved. Frank Rich, the really influential theater critic for the New York Times back then.
Yeah. What did Rich say?
Okay, get this. Rich wrote that Alexander, quote, banishes the memory of Zero Mostel from the role of Pseudolus in Vacrise. A funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. For anyone listening who doesn't know theater history, Zero Mostel as Pseudolus. That's like iconic, definitive.
It's legendary. Mostel was that role for so many people. The conniving, singing slave, one of the greatest comedic performances ever on Broadway.
So for Frank Rich to say that Alexander, this younger actor, essentially erased the memory of a legend, that's not just high praise, that's almost blasphemy in a theatrical sense.
It's huge. It means Alexander's performance wasn't just good, it was transformative.
What did that role, Pseudolus, require? What would he have had to do to earn that kind of comment?
Oh, it's an unbelievable combination of skills. Pseudolus is a total powerhouse role. You need expert physical comedy, pinpoint timing, robust singing, dancing ability, all while keeping up this chaotic energy of a farce. It's a marathon.
So to get that comparison to Mostel means Alexander was just operating on another level.
Totally. It fundamentally proves he had these serious, legitimate musical theater chops. Way, way beyond the neurotic, kind of schlubby George Costanza image.
And his love for the stage, it didn't just vanish when he got famous on TV, did it?
Not at all. His commitment stayed strong. He kept returning to the stage.
Like in The Producers.
Yeah. From 2003 to 2004, he starred as Max Bialystock in the touring production of Mel Brooks's The Producers, which, again, another massive, physically demanding, huge comedic lead role that needs real musical talent.
And then there's that wonderfully ironic full circle moment in 2015.
Oh, this is great.
After years of playing a character famously based on Larry David, he steps in to replace Larry David himself on Broadway. In David's own play, Fish in the Dark.
It's perfect theatrical symmetry, isn't it? The actor playing the character modeled on the creator takes over the creator's role. Fantastic.
And he kept those high-profile connections in the musical world too, right? Showing he still respected the genre.
Definitely. Like in 2005, he appeared with the legendary Angela Lansbury. They performed selections from Sweeney Todd, another complex Sondheim piece, at Barbra Streisand's big birthday party for Sondheim at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay, that's like musical theater royalty rubbing shoulders.
That's the rarefied air he was breathing, even during and after Seinfeld. So yeah, the picture's clear. Before and during George, there was Jason Alexander, the consummate stage professional, Tony winner.
All right, so now we have to shift focus. We have to talk about the cultural earthquake that was Seinfeld, the thing that cemented his global fame, but also maybe created the biggest professional hurdle of his career, George Costanza.
Yeah, for 9 years, right. 1989 to 1998. Alexander just lives in this role, achieves massive critical acclaim, gets huge laughs, but then runs into this really remarkable paradox when it comes to awards.
The awards anomaly. It just jumps off the page when you look at the sources.
Yeah.
The sheer number of nominations is staggering. It proves the character's impact, the quality of his performance.
But the lack of wins in the biggest categories, it's kind of astonishing.
He got 7 consecutive Primetime Emmy nominations. Outstanding supporting actor in a comedy series, 7 years in a row.
7. Add to that 4 Golden Globe nominations for Best Supporting Actor, and yet he never won either the Emmy or the Globe for playing George.
That's wild. Especially given how dominant Seinfeld was culturally. If everyone loved the performance, critics included, what did the sources suggest? Why did he keep missing out? Was it like vote splitting with the other cast members?
That's usually the main theory you see in analyses. You know, his co-star, Michael Richards, playing Kramer, he won the Emmy quite a few times in those years.
Right.
So it suggests maybe the iconic nature of the whole ensemble. It might have diluted the vote. Maybe viewers, industry voters, they just struggled to pick one person from that perfect comedy quartet.
But, and this is important, his peers did recognize the work, didn't they?
Yes. The sources confirm he won the 1995 Screen Actors Guild Award. Outstanding performance by a male actor in a comedy series.
SAG Award, voted on by other actors.
Exactly. That peer recognition suggests the industry really respected the craft, the meticulous work he put into George, even if the bigger TV awards consistently passed him over.
Maybe the difference between critical respect and, like, televised spectacle?
Could be. But while George was taking over the small screen, Alexander was very carefully carving out this massive parallel career. In film, and especially in voice acting, and often playing characters who were, refreshingly, nothing like George.
This is where you really see the actor fighting against being typecast, right?
Yeah.
Think about the movies he did right when Seinfeld was taking off, like 1990. He did Pretty Woman and Jacob's Ladder.
2 very different films. In Pretty Woman, he's Philip Stuckey, the slimy, money-hungry lawyer. He's predatory, really.
Yeah, he's sharp, cruel, successful in his own awful way. Completely the opposite of George's bumbling, pathetic failures.
Alexander showed this chilling capacity for villainy there. Needed a cold, sharp energy totally removed from the neurosis of George.
And in the same year, Jacob's Ladder, that psychological thriller, taking a role in a serious kind of mind-bending movie right after starting the biggest comedy hit. That feels like a deliberate strategy, doesn't it? Defying typecasting.
Absolutely. He cemented himself as that go-to character actor, could handle any genre. He popped up in comedies like Coneheads in '93, the journalism drama, The Paper in '94.
But the most successful parallel track during this time, maybe the one that let him truly escape George's shadow, was voice acting?
Yeah, because there, his physical presence didn't matter at all, only his vocal dexterity.
And he became a real powerhouse in animation, especially for Disney, but other series too. Let's start with the one where he really vanished into a complex character.
Duckman.
Duckman. Yeah, Alexander voiced the title character, Eric Duckman. That satirical animated series ran from '94 to '97.
And Duckman wasn't exactly like standard Saturday morning cartoon fare, was it?
Not at all. It was dark, cynical, really satirical, about this truly terrible, selfish private detective who happened to be a duck.
So how is his Duckman voice different from his Costanza voice? Totally different worlds. George's voice is all panic, nasal anxiety, that rapid-fire defensive-ness, you know? Duckman, though, that was guttural, world-weary, often drunk, deeply self-pitying. It needed a much wider vocal range to sell the show's kind of existential crises and that complex cynicism.
A really demanding role vocally.
Yeah, it used his talent fully, way beyond just neurotic whining.
And then the Disney roles.
Yeah.
Which must have introduced his voice to millions of kids who had no idea he was also George Costanza.
Exactly. He voiced Hugo, the gargoyle, in Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame in '96, and the sequel, too.
Hugo, right?
And he had a recurring villain role, too, Abbas Mal in The Return of Jafar in 1994, and then in the Aladdin TV series that followed.
So, voicing a comic gargoyle, a Disney villain, a cynical detective duck, and neurotic George Costanza all around the same time. That's incredible versatility.
It really is. Few actors manage that kind of range in such a short window. He even voiced Catbert, the evil director of human resources in that short-lived animated Dilbert series around 99-2000.
Right. Catbert. These voice roles clearly kept his creative engine firing, didn't they? Unburdened by the expectations tied to his face.
Definitely gave him an outlet. Okay, so Seinfeld ends in 1998. The finale airs. And that opens this really fascinating next chapter for Alexander, the attempt to go from being this iconic supporting character to being the leading man.
Which is notoriously difficult, right?
Yeah.
Following up a monster hit like that, the sources definitely confirm Alexander struggled with what people sometimes call the Costanza curse.
Yeah, the sitcom struggle was real. He tried 2 lead roles in sitcoms after Seinfeld. Both were highly anticipated and, well, both ultimately failed to really connect with audiences long term.
The first one was Bob Patterson.
Yeah.
On ABC in 2001.
Right. Heavily promoted. Alexander played a motivational speaker, which, allowed him to channel some of that frantic George energy, but in a different frame.
But got canceled super fast. Like 5 episodes.
Yeah, pulled very quickly.
Yeah.
And Alexander himself offered an interesting thought on why it failed. He partly blamed the timing, the national mood, right after 9/11, suggesting maybe the show's dark, cynical humor just wasn't what the country wanted or needed right then. Needed more comfort, maybe?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it, if timing was more critical than talent in that case.
Could be. Then came the second shot. Listen Up on CBS, 2004-2005. And here, Alexander upped his stake. He wasn't just the lead actor, he was also the principal executive producer.
More creative control? It was loosely based on Tony Kornheiser, the sports personality, right?
Yeah. But even with that producer role, it also failed to get a second season. It just highlights how hard it was for the audience, maybe, to accept him in a non-George long-term leading role.
But while those lead roles didn't stick, he found huge success just embracing the legacy, didn't he? Especially showing up as himself on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, absolutely. Those recurring cameos were brilliant.
And of course, it all culminated in that famous 7-season reunion arc, where the Seinfeld cast played these exaggerated versions of themselves trying to get a reunion show going.
Just perfect meta-commentary on their own fame. Genius stuff.
And beyond playing himself, he had some really memorable guest spots that weren't George, but still showed his comedy chops. Like on Friends in 2001, the one where Rosita dies, he played Earl, a suicidal supply manager.
Right. Seems like a standard guest spot. But here's where his self-awareness really kicks in.
Okay.
The sources point out that Friend's appearance gets referenced later. In a 2003 guest role he did on Malcolm in the Middle, Alexander plays this neurotic loner named Leonard. And Leonard described himself as being free and making money by, wait for it,
Selling toner over the phone.
selling toner over the phone.
He was making a meta joke across different networks about his own cameo history.
Exactly. It's like an inside joke for people paying close attention. But it also shows Alexander was totally willing to use that Costanza-esque anxiety persona for a quick, self-referential gag.
And didn't the Malcolm episode take it even further?
Oh, yeah. His character Leonard was repeatedly harassed by another character named George.
Oh, come on.
They knew exactly what they were doing, playing right into the audience's deep-seated association.
Okay, we absolutely have to talk about the high-profile commercial work that kind of unexpectedly blew up into a political controversy, the KFC saga.
Right. So 2002, Alexander starts appearing in Kentucky Fried Chicken commercials. Almost immediately, These rumors start swirling that he quit the campaign because of alleged animal cruelty by KFC suppliers.
And PETA, the animal rights group, was heavily involved in pushing that narrative.
Yeah, they were influential in spreading that story. It sounds like this potential clash, right? The committed advocate versus the working actor.
But the sources have his direct denial, and we need to report that impartially.
Absolutely. Alexander addressed the rumor very clearly. He told Adweek, and this is a direct quote, "That's PETA bullcrap. I loved working for KFC."
Okay, pretty unambiguous.
Very. He clarified that PETA had actually contacted him, trying to get him to broker some kind of agreement between them and KFC on animal welfare standards. He felt that KFC really stepped up to the plate and made efforts, but that PETA, in his words, did not.
And the best evidence supporting his denial is probably...
He came back. He enthusiastically reprised the role of Colonel Sanders in KFC commercials again in 2018.
Right. That pretty much completely undercuts the story that he quit in protest back in 2002. It makes it look more like an organization trying to leverage his fame.
Seems that way based on his statements and actions. Okay, so beyond performing, Alexander also made these significant moves towards creative control. Directing, producing.
Yeah, his film directing credits. For Better or Worse in 96. Just looking at 99, both comedies.
And his dedication to the actual art of theater, the physical space, was really profound. He served for 6 years as the artistic director of Reprise Theater Company in Los Angeles.
From 2007 until they closed down in 2013. That's a huge commitment, isn't it? Artistic director.
Oh, it's massive. It means you're overseeing the whole creative vision, picking the plays for the season, managing budgets, recruiting talent. It's way more demanding than just directing one show. He spent years nurturing the musical theater scene in LA.
And then, another milestone in 2023. He makes his Broadway directing debut with the comedy The Cottage.
Yeah. So you see that full circle journey from Tony-winning Broadway actor to celebrated Broadway director.
And finally, he's jumping into new media too. Launched a podcast in 2023.
Really?
No, really.
Right. Where he tries to answer, as he puts it, life's most baffling, intriguing, confusing, and annoying questions. Always exploring, always learning, seems to be his way.
Okay, now this is genuinely satisfying. We get to circle back to his very first passion. Illusion. Magic.
It's the ultimate vindication, isn't it? The guy whose hands were supposedly too small for professional card magic.
He becomes an award-winning professional magician.
He really did. He didn't just give up the dream, he refined it, focused maybe more on mentalism. In 2006, he performed the specialty mentalism and magic act at the legendary Magic Castle in Hollywood.
And this wasn't just, a celebrity fooling around with a hobby.
No way. The
Okay.
sources confirm it was serious work. Because the performance was so well received within the magic community itself, he was named the Academy of Magical Arts Parlor Magician of the Year for 2006.
Parlor Magician of the Year.
And that wasn't even his first award from them. He had won their Junior Achievement Award way back in 1989.
Wow. So that 19-year gap between awards,
Yeah.
it shows this lifelong, serious, professional dedication to magic, something he developed right alongside his acting career.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a side thing. Okay, beyond entertainment, the sources really emphasize Alexander's deep commitment to charitable work.
He served as the national spokesman for the Scleroderma Foundation, right? Raising awareness for that chronic autoimmune disease.
Yeah, a really important cause. And he found this unique kind of high-stakes way to raise serious money using his competitive streak, poker.
Right. He competed on those televised celebrity poker shows. Bravo's Celebrity Poker Showdown.
And he didn't just show up, he won. He took down the final table of the 8th season of that show, won a massive prize.
How much was it?
$500,000. $500,000, which he directed straight to the United Way of America, specifically earmarked for the New Orleans area, which was still really struggling after Hurricane Katrina.
Wow. So that wasn't just a casual appearance. That was high-stakes competition for a major humanitarian cause.
Totally. And he later played in the actual World Series of Poker Main Event in 2007 and 2009. So his poker skills were legitimate enough for the biggest stage in the game.
Okay, now we need to turn to maybe his most complex and publicly challenging work, his high-profile political engagement, especially around Middle East dialogue. And we have to be really careful here to report this impartially, just laying out what the sources say.
Agreed. Total neutrality is key here. So Alexander is known as a prominent public supporter of the One Voice initiative.
And just to clarify for listeners, OneVoice is described as a group that focuses on getting opinions from moderate Israelis and Palestinians, trying to build momentum for a mutual peace agreement, coming from what they call the silent majority on both sides.
Right. So that positioning itself kind of highlights his preference for dialogue, for a balanced perspective, rather than taking an extreme side.
But this balanced approach faced intense scrutiny in 2012. He was emceeing a gala event for the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, the FIDF. It was his third time doing it.
And that specific event got a lot of negative attention because the musician Stevie Wonder canceled his planned performance.
Why did Wonder cancel?
Well, according to reports, it followed a recommendation from the United Nations and also a very public petition campaign from the BDS movement, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions.
And BDS generally aims to pressure Israel economically and culturally over its policies, right?
That's their stated goal, yes. So the sources confirm that Alexander, faced with this controversy swirling around the event he was hosting, chose to use his platform there. Not to ignore it, but to actually express his complex, multi-sided position.
What did he say specifically?
He stated very clearly that he was an advocate for both sides, that he supported a two-state solution. And crucially, he acknowledged the occupation of Palestine.
So he was trying to hold multiple, maybe conflicting ideas at the same time.
It seems so. He did defend the IDF at the event, saying they were, quote, some of the finest, most humane, most admirable, most noble-serving soldiers that I've ever seen.
But then he immediately pivoted to balance that.
Exactly. He made sure the audience understood his broader view by stating that he holds, quote, everyone equally accountable in the conflict. It really seems like he was using his visibility to push for dialogue and accountability across the board, rather than just fundraising for one side without question.
That kind of political navigation, handling that complexity in public, it's a really crucial part of his post-Seinfeld identity, isn't it?
Yeah, it shows him actively grappling with some of the world's toughest issues and refusing to be just, a simple partisan figure on this particular issue.
Okay, zooming back to domestic U.S. politics. Here, his views seem much more clearly defined and partisan, according to the sources.
Right. He's described as a supporter of the Democratic Party, endorsed Barack Obama in 2012, Joe Biden in 2020.
And he supports specific social causes publicly.
Yeah, things like same-sex marriage, an assault weapons ban, and he hasn't been shy about using his comedic voice to criticize political figures he opposes.
He famously went after the Trump administration, right? And once compared Donald Trump's dancing
to Elaine Benice, the iconic, awful dancing from Seinfeld, which is just a perfect reference guaranteed to land with anyone who watched the show.
Absolutely perfect. And in maybe the most satisfyingly meta-political jab.
Oh, this one's great.
He used a classic Seinfeld insult against Senator Ted Cruz. Called him a jerk from the jerk store.
The jerk store, it's like George Costanza himself crossing over into political commentary, making a reference only Jason Alexander can truly, legitimately own.
A move George himself would probably be way too cowardly to ever attempt in real life. Which brings us right back to that profound disconnect we started with.
Yeah, this whole deep dive, it's really revealed conclusively that the actor we think we know, Jason Alexander, is just so much more than the character that defined him. We've tracked the journey of J. Scott Greenspan.
Watched him transcend George Costanza, earn that Tony along the way, build this career-spanning complex drama, tons of animation, Broadway directing.
And high-stakes poker played purely for huge charitable wins.
His life really proves it, doesn't it? Being defined by one iconic role doesn't mean you have to be limited by it. He successfully juggled stage mastery, screen success, award-winning magic, serious artistic management.
All while leveraging his fame to push for causes he cared about, whether it's scleroderma research, Katrina relief, or trying to foster dialogue in the Middle East.
And that leads us right back to that fundamental paradox, the thing that makes his story so compelling. George Costanza, the character we know, he's fundamentally selfish, right?
Yeah.
Profoundly neurotic, desperate to dodge responsibility, always looking for the easiest, most self-serving way out.
Total opposite, because Jason Alexander in reality is this dedicated political advocate pushing for mutual peace, an acclaimed director, an active artistic director for theater companies, a charitable powerhouse who actively takes on responsibility in complex issues.
He's the total opposite of the character that made him famous worldwide.
So what does that really say about the power of performance? Or maybe Maybe it says something about our failure as an audience to look beyond the surface sometimes, that the world believes in this single, deeply flawed character, even when the actor is so clearly capable of embodying his total opposite in real life.
It leaves us with a really important question, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. A thing we often overlook when we engage with art. What other iconic characters might we be completely misjudging? Or whose actors are we maybe failing to appreciate the true depth and dedication behind the performance?
Yeah. Something to definitely mull over next time you see that classic George Costanza slumped posture on your screen.